Well, I think it's been a while since I made my last video here on this channel, hasn't it, folks? I mean, I had to make sure my video on the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special has had to have enough points and content put into it, all while getting it out just in time for Christmas of last year so we could all celebrate the most wonderful time of the year. Of course, I may have missed a couple of points regardless, but I'd rather not worry about that. Anywho, since then, like I mentioned before, I had an unintentional hiatus from my channel as I was busy with my free time doing things for myself and others and trying to get myself ready for hopefully to make my grand return to YouTube. And I figured that the most logical thing I could think of doing at this point in time is to talk about Garfield another 10 squillion times. Yeah, despite how much I wasn't as obsessed about the orange tabby as I was a long time ago, I still like this franchise, and the fact that Chris Pratt from the Super Mario Bros. Movie is going to be voicing the titular character in an upcoming animated Garfield movie is going to be quite interesting considering how people laughed at the idea of Star-Lord voicing Mario, who is also fat just like Garfield. Ain't that convenient? I hope that that movie is as good or at least very least better than the two live-action Garfield films though. Anyway, this time around, I'm going to be looking at a segment from Garfield and Friends that comes from U.S. Acres or Orson's Farm or whatever. Yeah, I remember that obscure IP that was also from Garfield creator Jim Davis about a group of farm animals. Yeah, those segments apparently lasted longer in the show than they did in the comic strips that these characters are from. For this video, I'm going to be talking about one of its segments. That segment is called The Caverns of Cocoa. I think it would be fitting for me to tackle, considering that my dad and I think that my sister, who has moved away, have told me to cut back on chocolate out of concern of me getting sick. I love chocolate, but I do have to follow my doctor's rules around here since I'm apparently allergic to chocolate in a way. So without further ado, let's see what kind of sweetness would be possible for me to stick my teeth into. In this sketch, Orson Pig is reading an old diary from his grandfather that he found in the attic with the latter's belongings about how he, Wade Duck, and Roy's Rooster's ancestors from 1932 were working on a new mine from up in the hills for quite some time. Orson suggests that they go check it out themselves. Roy at first doesn't want to go because of the hard work that mining would require for him to put up with, along with him not wanting to get calluses on his feathers. But then Orson finds out loud that the mine that their ancestors were working on was the world's only chocolate mine. Upon hearing this, Roy, presumably being a sweet-toothed character, changes his mind about not going and joins his friends on a digging trip, what I like to call Cocoa Mountain, just so he can get his grubby little feathers on some delicious chocolate that is bad for your teeth, by the way. But while Orson, Wade, and Roy climb up Cocoa Mountain on a hot summer day, Orson's mean brothers named Mort, Wart, and Gort notice them through their binoculars in confusion, so they decide to investigate and interfere with what they're doing. Once at the top, Orson and Roy head inside the mine, while Wade waits outside, fearing what might be in there. I hope that wasn't a tongue twister, by the way. Anyway, while inside, they discover an old shovel presumably left behind by their ancestors and smell the chocolate from within the mine. Roy gets excited, gets himself a pickaxe and starts digging for his big prize. Orson doesn't believe at first that there could be chocolate there until he reads his grandfather's diary some more, which has a moment where his grandfather himself still doesn't understand chocolate in those mountains. So he had a chemist from a local village for information who said that someone years ago planted cacao trees on top of Cocoa Mountain that were usually found in Africa and Middle America. The chemist then theorizes that something happened up there like a strike of lightning that electrically charged the cocoa from the trees into the ground to taste good, to combine with plants producing sugar, simple sugar. He then tastes the chocolate and says it tastes good. He then allows the ancestors to dig up the mine, except they must stop and seal up the mine before July 1st. However, before Orson can find out why, Roy happily finds the chocolate in the mine and Orson tastes it, claiming it to be good. Roy fills a minecart up with chocolate. Meanwhile, Wade discovers Orson's brothers in front of him and passes out. Back in the mine, Roy and Orson push the minecart out the mine, while the latter worries that something could go wrong, while Roy gets excited about chocolate. And of course, the latter was right to worry, as Orson brothers tie them and Wade on a tree branch with rope. They then eat all the chocolate in the minecart, while one of them throws Orson's book to him so he could find out why the mine had to be sealed up. While the brothers go to get more chocolate, Orson discovers in the diary that if you don't seal up the mine before July 1st, the hot July sun will melt the chocolate, and would you know it, today is July 1st, and the chocolate melts, sweeping the brothers away. Upon Orson, Wade, and Roy freeing themselves from the trap, Roy vows to find a whipped cream mine so he can make the world's biggest hot fudge sundae, and heads off to do so. Yeah, good luck with that, Roy. You'll need it. And the segment ends there. Yay! Good! As far as what I like about this cartoon, it's kind of funny how Orson, Roy, and Wade's ancestors have the same personalities as their descendants, as they keep these characters memorable. Speaking of the characters, they are still the lovable selves as always, with Roy apparently having a sweet tooth for chocolate. I wonder if there was established sometime prior to the episode. It's been a while since I've seen Garfield and Friends. Oh, and the chemist in the flashback, aside from him being a nice resemblance of Mr. Peabody from from Peabody's Improbable History, is a decent, smart character for what he offers to the story. I also like the probably intentional implication that the mouse that Wade's ancestor is scared of was actually Floyd's ancestor. You know, Floyd, Garfield's mouse friend from the show we're talking about in this video. The humor is pretty good overall, with my favorite jokes being when Wade quips about how he feels like his grandfather and one of Orson's brothers smelling like a pig even though he is a pig. Go figure. I even like how it's implied that it's more than Orson and his friends and their ancestors that were digging up the mine, as evidenced by an old shovel left behind in the mine, showing that it's not that abandoned of a mine, and it can be left to interpretation to who was digging the mine with that shovel before Orson and his friends came along. I appreciate how the flashback scenes with their ancestors are presented in black and white to pay homage to those kinds of movies from the old days of Hollywood, as well as the time period those flashbacks take place in. Not to mention, I love the idea of a chocolate mine on a chocolate mountain, even though it doesn't exist, unfortunately. Remind me of that later. The music is not bad either, even though it's nothing memorable. It's nice that this segment is paced in a way that's not too slow nor too fast. The animation is passable for a Saturday morning cartoon, and the voice acting is fitting here. I do like the theory that the chemist presents on how the chocolate ended up in the mine, as it does seem plausible in this show's universe. Good on you, Jim Davis. One last thing that I liked was the scene where Orson's brothers are eating all the chocolate, given how satisfying it is, as well as them getting swept away by the melted chocolate as karma for interfering with Orson, Wade, and Roy's journey. If only I was in the land of chocolate right about now. Bad! In regards to things I don't like about this episode, while I do like the idea of a chocolate mine, I feel like the kids that watch this episode would probably think it's real and want to find it themselves. Yes, I am aware that this is a cartoon, and cartoons are not meant to be realistic, but kids don't know everything as to what the world has to offer, yet, and the existence of a chocolate mountain in this world of Garfield and Friends would be misleading, would mislead kids into thinking it's real because of that, and they'll probably be disappointed when they find out the truth. Doesn't sound like good education, now does it? Another thing is that why didn't Orson find out that the mine had to be sealed on July 1st sooner and took action then? Plus, the chocolate in the mine melts on July 1st, right? Because the hot July sun that will melt the chocolate. Well, if that's the case, shouldn't the chocolate have melted the moment Roy finds it? I mean, the characters were experiencing heat when climbing up the mountain, so I feel like it should have been the afternoon already for that to happen. Oh wait, if the chocolate were to have melted sooner, then we wouldn't have seen Orson's mean brothers getting swept away in it, now would we? Also, Orson thinks that Wade's grandfather was a bold, intrepid miner, even though in the black and white flashback we see that he was a coward just like Wade himself. Either Orson somehow forgot he read that in the diary, or he is lying through his teeth. Either one would probably surprise me, because it would feel out of character for Orson, who is supposed to be, according to Wikipedia anyways, a good-natured and naive functional leader with a work ethic that makes him such. Not a forgetful or lying anthropomorphic pig, if you ask me. One nitpick I do have is that when Wade gets mad that Roy puts the latter's knapsack into a former's knapsack because it makes him feel like he passed away 30 years ago, Roy is seen smiling about this like he either got a kick out of upsetting people, or he somehow is oblivious to the fact that Wade is angry at him for what he did to him. I wish the cartoon made that clear, in my honest opinion. Also, why did Roy put his knapsack into Wade's knapsack to begin with? Yes, he did say there's no point in both of them to be carrying these things up the mountain, but it doesn't answer why he did that at all. I know that Roy is lazy in nature, but he is capable of doing things that are anything but, so he can't be that lazy in doing such a simple task of carrying a bag up in a mountain. Huh. Now that I think about it, maybe this isn't a nitpick like I thought. Oh well. Also, how did the chemist from the flashback know that the chocolate mine had to be sealed up on July 1st? Of each year? Is that the hottest day of the year in this world? If so, could the episode make that clear for us? Because I thought it was on the beginning of the summer solstice for a long time now. Go figure. Another thing is that if Orson, Roy, and Wade can get themselves out of the rope trap that the former's brothers put on them, why didn't they do that before the brothers ate all their chocolate? I feel like that would be enough time for them to take back their personal journey, if you ask me. And what happened to all the chocolate that melted at the end of the segment? I felt like that should have been addressed at any point later in the series, or they did do that and I'm not aware of it or something. Not to mention, when Roy pushes the minecart full of things for the mine along with Orson and Wade wearing a mining outfit, in the next scene, both the minecart and outfit are missing. Continuity much? Another issue I have is that when the chocolate melted, why is Roy's biggest concern wanting to make the world's biggest hot fudge sundae from a whipped cream mine that doesn't even exist? I'm pretty sure that a hot fudge sundae requires more than chocolate and whipped cream, like, say, I don't know, maybe ice cream! I also think he could have cleaned up all the melted chocolate that ended up God knows where, and he would have realized that there is no such thing as a whipped cream mine. I know Roy can be annoying to the farm residents, but I didn't know he can be dumb. Who would have thought? Also, when Wade is running around in circles outside of the mine, he is not doing so exactly on the circle trail he's leaving behind for some reason. Though I do think it is kind of funny. I'll give it that. Also, and why did Orson and Roy smell the chocolate in the mine with their mouths open? Is it to pretend that they're eating the chocolate with their imaginations or something? By the way, don't you guys find it convenient how Cocoa Mountain is near Orson's farm? Makes you wonder why they didn't notice nor go there before. Beats me for all I know. And how did the minecart get carried up the mountain by Roy? Or was it just there from the get-go and Roy decided to leave his behind? The episode doesn't make that clear to the audience. And don't let the title card fool you. The characters do not ride in the minecart in this cartoon. What a scam! One last complaint I do have with this sketch is that the present day setting of this episode I feel is kind of dated, because the creatures in this universe age or pass away. So I feel like the farm animals and other animals there would either be dead or old by now. Just saying. So with all that being said, The Caverns of Cocoa is an average episode of Garfield and Friends that can definitely give you a sweet tooth for chocolate. It has plenty to like the lesson of minding your own business and not interfering with what someone else is doing, or else you could be in big trouble, and the chocolate itself. But there are a lot of things that I don't like as well, like Orson not telling Roy to hold on with his chocolate discovery for a moment, so he can find out why the mine had to be sealed up like it wasn't that important to him somewhat, and it's misleading idea of a chocolate mine, even though I do wish it was real. God forbid. If I can make a recommendation for those that haven't seen this cartoon yet, I'd say approach this one with caution. Sure, you might get some enjoyment out of it, but I don't think it held up perfectly after all these years. You'll probably know what I mean if you see it for yourselves. So with that being said, I'm going to give this episode 3 fingers out of 5. Okay, folks, that's it for this review. And oh my god, was there a shit ton of things for me to talk about in this 7-minute and 13-second cartoon. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and or whatever matters at this point. I'm the Purple Mario. I think it might be a good idea to get out of the house on a hot summer day like in the cartoon. I'm surprised none of the characters got any sunburn whatsoever. Who knew, even though this episode did not come out on July 1st, believe it or not. Wah.